Welcome to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where we feature top leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry with your host, Drew Hendricks. Now, let's get started with the show.
Drew Thomas Hendricks here. I'm the host of the Legends Behind the Craft podcast, where I talk with leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry. Past guests of Legends Behind the Craft include Daniel Dow of Dow Vineyards, Joe Wagner of Copper Cane Wine and Provisions, and Ken Freeman of Freeman Winery. If you haven't listened to these yet, be sure to check them out and subscribe. Today's episode, sponsored by Barrels Ahead. At Barrels Ahead, we work with you to implement a one-of-a-kind marketing strategy, one that highlights your authenticity, tells your story, and connects you with your ideal customers. In short, we help wineries and craft beverage producers unlock their story to unleash their revenue. Go to barrelsahead.com today to learn more. Speaking of Barrels Ahead, today I also have Bianca Harmon on the show, who's one of our direct-to-consumer marketing strategists at Barrels Ahead. How's it going, Bianca?
It's good. Thanks, Drew. Excited to talk with James today and hear all about the Virginia winery area.
Yes, today's guest is James King. Super excited for this. James is a Marine Corps veteran and co-owner at King Family Vineyards, a family-owned and operated vineyard and winery in Central Virginia. Welcome to the show, James.
Drew, thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. So, James, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you go from, how did you get from where you are today to where you were then?
Yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in Texas. We moved here in 1995 to get out of the big city, and went to school in Charlottesville, Virginia, just down the road here from Crozet, and attended the University of Virginia actually to play lacrosse. Loved lacrosse. And also wanted to serve my country, our country. It's where I met my wife in the Archi program, believe it or not. She was a Navy nurse corps officer. And I joined the Marine Corps and became a logistics officer and really enjoyed that time. Did a couple deployments, one to Iraq, one to Afghanistan, back in the late 2000s. And at the end of my 4 years, wanted to get out and do other things, had a couple of job offers, didn't really sound interesting. Talked to my dad on the phone. He said, well, we have an opening at the tasting room back at the family business in Crozet if you want to have it. I said, sure, that sounds fun. So I started here in 2012. Been doing a little bit of everything since then. I've done the tasting room management, general management, vineyard operations, pretty much everything except make the wine, thankfully. So had my hands in many pots, wear many hats. And today, pretty much a catch-all, do all the special projects that no one else wants to do, which is fun. I'm happy to do those. But yeah, that was the transition, was just, separating from the Marine Corps and wanting to get back, start a family, and the family business was here. So that was the opportunity for me to jump
in.
And
you were stationed here in San Diego, weren't you?
Yep. I was in Camp Pendleton, California. My wife was stationed at Balboa Naval Medical Center there in San Diego. So we really enjoyed Southern California for 4 years. I mean, I wasn't there most of the time. I was deployed, unfortunately, but when I was home, we really enjoyed it. We missed fish tacos and the surfing. And
oh, yeah. No, my brother-in-law works at the Naval Hospital. He's with the Wounded Warriors. He's a Marine, sure. Benjamin Bramer, and he and his wife also works in the same facility.
Small world, man. Small Marine Corps is what they say.
It is. So tell me about transitioning from the Marine Corps to winery.
Yeah, I mean, I think transitioning out of military service, regardless of what you did and where you served and how long you served, it can be difficult. I actually had a really amazing experience. I was on a flight from Virginia to California, and I just happened to reach and grab the magazine from the seat back pocket in front of me. And I opened it up, and the page described a hydroponic organic farm in Escondido, California, believe it or not, run by a Marine Corps sergeant who was growing basil and tomatoes for Whole Foods. And it was called Archi's Acres. So I separated from the Marine Corps in 2011. I was waiting for my wife to leave the Navy in 2012. So I had a year to kill in Southern California. Like, what trouble am I going to get into, right? So I said, man, this sounds like an amazing experience. And Archi's Acres is a small-scale hydro-organic operation. And they bring in transitioning veterans and civilians to not only learn how to grow hydroponic agriculture, but also part of their program is you have to start a business plan. And so it's a 6-week in-depth program learned to grow basil, tomatoes, get your hands in the soil, which was super therapeutic and cathartic. In the Marine Corps, our mission is to kill and destroy. When you're a farmer, you're nurturing something that's living. So it was really therapeutic for me. And really great to meet other vets, kind of going through that similar process of transition. So I had a great time. I created a business plan. I wanted to come back to Virginia, start a greenhouse, and grow food here in Virginia, and talk to my dad and my family about it. They're like, well, that sounds good, but why don't you come back and see what's going on the farm before we do that? And I fell in love with the winery at that point. So my hydroponic organic dreams of growing food kind of took a back seat, and here we are.
And what with the what you grew from hydro? So your dad's like, hey, we've got a whole vineyard here. There's plenty of stuff to grow.
There's a lot to do here. Absolutely.
So you guys started with 480 cases, and now you're pushing 10,000.
Yeah, we're actually pushing 20. Our first vintage was back in 2000. A little bit of history. I guess the quick synopsis. We moved from Texas in '95. We were not part of the wine industry in Texas. We didn't know about growing anything. We were in beef cattle and commercial real estate. And we moved here, and my dad started playing polo in the mid '80s. He was a polo player, one of his bad habits. And his one request to the real estate agent when we moved to Virginia was, hey, I'd like to buy a farm with 12 flat acres to build a polo field. So the realtor found what is now today Roseland Farm. And in 1996, when we purchased the farm, grapes were not a twinkle in our eye, right? So the very next year, we had a really bad drought in 1997 and no rain. All the alfalfa and the corn that we were going to grow and sell, that died. And my dad's dream of, being this farmer and selling corn and cutting hay died with it. So we were literally sitting around the table in the fall of 97, like, what are we going to do to pay off the farm and buy groceries? We're in a pickle here. We're in a bind. And we got a knock on the door. My mom opens the door right before dinner, and there's a young man standing there. And he's got a map in his hand. This is pre-cell phone and Google. So he says, I just graduated from Virginia Tech with a viticulture and enology degree. Been driving around Albemarle County. I think this land has been deemed excellent for viticulture by Virginia Tech and the Virginia Cooperative Extension. And my mom looked at him like, what? What's viticulture? So this young man came into dinner. And over the course of dinner, he explained, basically 3 reasons why we can grow grapes well here. Got good soil, good elevation. We have kind of a dike loam soil, pretty callaceous here. Elevation here is about 810 feet above sea level.
Okay.
And he said, you have great wind. We're at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains here. If you go to our website, kingfamilyvineyards.com, you can see these beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, which are the oldest mountains in the world. They're dying, they're crumbling. But the wind predominantly comes over those mountains and it blows across our farm. There's no real geographic feature to stop that wind. And wind is really important in fruit production, as you probably know, because it wicks the moisture off the berry and the leaf, keeps pressure down, keeps your fruit healthy. So he says, good elevation, good soil, good wind. And oh, by the way, did you know, Crozet, Virginia, where you live, used to be the peach capital of the world before Georgia took over. So we have a railroad track running through our town that used to stop here in the 20s and 30s and grab a bunch of peaches and apples for market for the city. So he basically described, you're in this fruit-producing region. There's peaches over there. There's apples over there. You should plant grapes. So we sat there. We fed the man, and we said, we're really not interested in selling you or leasing you 10 acres of land, but we appreciate you coming by and hope you got well fed and good luck to you. Have a great life. So he left his business card, which we immediately lost. But my dad, being an attorney, super cerebral guy, picks up some books on viticulture. We learned about what that is. And the very next year, in 1998, we plant 8 acres of grapes, Merlot and Viognier. We had to hire a vineyard consultant. The plan then was just to sell the fruit. But my mom said, please, David, can we make a little bit of wine? So sure enough, my dad conceived to that wish. And in 2000, 2 years later, we made 460 cases. And the same year, there was a wine writer from the UK that toured all over Virginia. He tasted 400 wines, and he picks 8 wines that he really likes. And my dad gets a call from Barbersville Vineyard, which was established in the mid-'70s, great winery. My dad says, I've been told I need to bring our Merlot to go to Barbersville to meet this wine writer. So he goes down there, and this wine writer proceeds to say, hey, thanks for inviting me to Virginia. The wines are getting better. I really enjoyed my time here. Thank you for having me. These 8 wines are great, and that Merlot from Rosen Farm and Crozet is just top notch. And so my dad was kind of taken aback, and these 7 other really well-known established wineries kind of looked down like, who the hell is this lawyer from Houston, Texas?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that my dad knew at the time that no one else collectively knew at the table was that of the 400 wines that this wine writer tasted, the 8 he picked, the other 7, not our bottle, but the other 7 had fruit from our vineyard.
Oh, really?
So at that point, we knew we had a really good site and we should expand the winery and expand the vineyard. So we went from 460 cases in 2000 to next year, we're projecting 20,000 cases. And when our vineyard has grown from 8 acres back in 1998 to now we're actively managing 48 acres. We have plans to plant 5 more next year and probably 15 more in the next 5 years. So it's grown tremendously. But when people ask us, like, how'd you get in the wine industry? We literally fell face first because some kid knocked on our door. And the funny thing is to like tie it all back in together. Like, well, who was the guy that knocked on your door? We're like, well, we lost his card. We forgot his name. It's kind of one of those quick business things that we threw it away. They're like, you got to be kidding me. This is a joke, right? And we're like, it's not a joke. So for years and years, we didn't know who this man was. And we didn't know his name. So we kind of dubbed him the Ghost, right? Like this was a miraculous event that changed the course of our family's trajectory for generations. And in 2015, I'm literally sitting at this desk right here and I'm typing away and I get an email from the guy. And his name's Tom Vandenberg. He's been in Boulder, Colorado. He's a great guy. And he said, hey, you might not remember me, but I'm the guy that knocked on your door all those years ago.
Oh my gosh. He's like,
I was like shaking the hair. Yeah. I mean, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. It was wild. And he says, I see on your website that you only offer tours on Saturdays and Sundays. Would you be willing to make an exception for you? Exception for me. I'm coming by Wednesday. We said, of course, we roll out the red carpet. And he ended up helping us make wine in the winery as a winemaking assistant in 2016. So it kind of came full circle.
Oh, fantastic.
Really great guy. But yeah, we fell face first in this business, no business plan, kind of very organic growth, slow to grow. But today we do weddings and events. We have over 100 weddings a year. We're probably 90% direct to consumer, 10% wholesale.
I was going to ask about that.
It's great. We have a great location.
Consumer out of the online or just straight out of the winery?
We do a little bit online. I think online really saved us during COVID, obviously. But online has just we've scratched the surface online. Here in Virginia, in most wineries, we have a supply problem. We don't have enough fruit in the ground here. You know, we could get on the phone, call our friends in California and say, hey guys, we need some grapes. Can you ship us some grapes? We don't want to do that here. Like you, we believe in a local product. We want to grow a local product. So our problem in Virginia is lack of fruit in the ground. And we're trying to convince older farmers who might grow corn or tobacco or something else, like, hey, this is a profitable business. If you want to rip out that old crop, that commodity crop and plant grapes, we can make this happen. So that's what we're trying to do. The Virginia Wine Board's helping with initiatives to try to get more fruit in the ground. I mean, there are single wineries in your state of California that outproduce our entire state. Yeah. I mean, to put things in perspective. So we're focusing on high quality vinifera, dry wines that consumers like to drink. We want to grow something that people love to consume. It's really good, but also we have to be careful. To your point earlier, we need to make sure that what we're planting actually is going to grow well on our soil. You know,
that was interesting. You said your first varietals were Merlot and Viognier. You usually don't see those two together. Usually,
actually, it was funny.
Like Bordeaux varietals.
Yeah, we kind of arm wrestled with the vineyard consultant initially. He was wanting us to plant some hybrid varieties because they might grow better. We're like, we're not interested in that. We want to grow something that people will want to buy at the time because we thought we were just going to sell the fruit. So we were interested in selling the fruit for commercial wine production, which meant for us, in our mind, dry wines that we like to drink, Bordeaux varietals, Fidesz vinifera. So that's what we did, and we've had a little luck and worked very, very hard over many, many years. And we have a great team here. We have an amazing vineyard management team headed by my brother. Our winemaker, Mathieu Finot, is a super talented Frenchman from the Rhone Valley. He's been here since 2003. His intent when he came through, he's like, I'm only going to work in Virginia one vintage. And it was a terrible year, super wet. And he, of course, met a girl, fell in love, started a family. And here we are all these years later. And we are super thankful that he's heading winemaking operations, and it's wonderful. It's been an amazing time.
So what's the growing climate like in Virginia versus, say, California?
Oh gosh, it's hot, wet, and humid typically, to put it succinctly. Some years, Bianca, we can have a drought, like we did in 2010. We had a nice drought, and for us, drought is great. Mm-hmm. We want to stress our grapes. So we want small berries. We want to water them and keep that respiration up and get high alcohol. In 2010 we did amelioration. We were adding water to the wine to dilute it, literally with the garden hose in the tank to do amelioration to get back down to those table red alcohol levels of 14.5%. We were doing primary fermentation in 2010. We were getting 17% alcohol, not really something, that's port style. So, so you can have drought, which is rare, once a decade maybe. And then in 2011, the very next year, you can have a hurricane. Like Drew, you mentioned, we can be harvesting a hurricane with the danger of the grapes slicing and bursting if they get too much water. So those are two extremes to give examples. But generally, we have wind machines out in the vineyard.
I was going to ask, do you use that for your humidity control? Because we use them for fog. So
yeah, you guys have fog out there.
Yeah,
I remember the fog.
And freezing. So
yep. Right now we're going through bud break. So our whites are waking up and opening up right now. So before we had wind machines, my dad, another of his bad habits and hobbies was helicopter pilot. So he literally purchased a helicopter, or we'd rent from a company in Richmond called Hilo Air, and they would come and fly the vineyard at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning in the inversion layer, in that warm pocket of air, and push that warm air on the grapes to prevent the buds from freezing. And you could get, a 6 to 10 degree temperature spike when that rotor wash hits you. So we did that for years and years, and then quickly realized, helicopters have a lot more moving parts than wind machines. So we're going to do that. It's a little safer, more reliable. So now we have wind machines to help with frost. We've, lit fires and smudge pots and burned hay bales in the spring. But vegetative growth, our problem in Virginia is too much water.
Sure.
We have a lot of rain. 3 years ago, I think 2018, we had 80 inches of rain.
Wow.
That was the most rainfall recorded in Virginia since like 1946. It was insane. So huge swings in variability and rainfall and drought. And another thing is pests. We're dealing with, one year was the spotted winged Drosophila from China. We've got a new one, off a boat somewhere that's threatening vineyards that just got to Albemarle County last year. So there's always a threat to viticulture. And, we laugh and joke and say, why aren't we making beer and buying commodities from where they're safely grown somewhere else in the country and just turning on the tap water and making alcohol that way? Because the thing we're trying to do is to mitigate agricultural risk, right? Because you can battle Mother Nature, whether it's California or Virginia. She's going to win most of the time. You guys have a little bit more stable climate, I guess, or more consistent than we do. But we are convinced and love the vintage variation. You never know what you're going to get, which we
a little more in the European style, where you're blessed with 100-point vintage every year.
100%, yes. And our winemaker is suited to that. He thinks it's challenging. And, I've asked him a couple of times, and I've overheard him in conversation when people say, "Hey, Mathieu, like, what wine are you most proud of?" And he'll say, "My 2011 Meritage blend." And that was the worst year Virginia's had in a long time.
Yeah.
And he says that because he was able to make a good wine in a challenging year. And that, I think, is the true mark of a really talented winemaker. Someone who can adapt to extreme changes in what's going on outside in the vineyard and make good wine that made it to the governor's case, believe it or not, which is the top 12 wines in the state. And so he's really proud of that, and we all are too.
Oh, he should be. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, you would think someone would say, "Oh, this fantastic year where the conditions were perfect." He's saying, "No, the worst year when conditions were terrible. That's my favorite wine. That's my most memorable wine. That's the wine I'm most proud of because it was good."
I can appreciate that. I've always said, like, especially the European wines, Italian wines, you learn more about the wines in the bad year than you do in the good year.
You really do.
Like those wines is like you're involved with the winery. It's like a marriage, and you grow with the winery. Versus a lot of the wines made in some of the newer areas are a lot like hot dates. They're kind of always the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the fact that, it's different every year and never know what you're going to get. I think our customers have grown accustomed to like, what's it like this year? Oh, this tastes a little bit different than last year, but I like it, so that's always, keeps us on our toes and keeps us really paying attention in the vineyard and watching the weather and doing all those things. And, helping Matthew buy the equipment he needs to be successful in the winery, making sure his team has the tools they need to do great things. So he's always said, and we always believe, the quality of the wine is set in the vineyard. Once you cut that cluster off the vine, there's no magic wand or anything special that the winemaker can do to improve the quality of that wine. It's done. Mm-hmm. So he's a true believer in, hey, it starts and ends in the vineyard. I just kind of carry it through the process of fermentation, put it in the bottle, and guests enjoy it. So we're really proud of, we're farmers. People come in here and they look around like, oh, this place is really nice. I want to do this. I'm like, come with us and help us harvest, and we'll show you that you don't want to do this, because it's just really a lot of hard manual labor, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
no, I think that's great, and I totally agree with the hard years being more for the winemaker's proud of. And I mean, for example, out here, one of our fire years, 2020 actually, Costello, where my sister worked, the wine room caught on fire.
Wow.
And so they lost all their wine. And he ended up giving all the wine that was in there to employees. Like, we don't know what it's going to be like. And so we would call it fire wine. And every night we'd be like, what fire wine are we going to have tonight? And it was like the test all of like, how good is this wine? Actually, it sat in a room on fire, and I'll be damned, most of them were pretty good.
There you go.
So, it's funny because you're like, let's try it. Here we go.
Right. Every year it's a big roll of the dice, it's a big gamble, and it's fun.
So you actually grape growing. You have the unique position of being in the Monticello AVA, where some of the original European varieties were brought over by Thomas Jefferson.
Yep.
So it's not a new region.
No, it's not.
How have you seen it evolve since even over the last 14, 15 years?
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, from you probably know the history better than I do, but from what I've grown up hearing, winemaking here has existed since the 1600s, or at least the planting of grapes. I think I know the Crown back in England was excited that the colonials were going to make wine, export it back to Europe. But that obviously never happened. We had other plans. But Thomas Jefferson, moving forward, he, I think, tried 3 different times in Monticello, which is 15 minutes from here, to plant vinifera, and failed, I think, because of phylloxera, the root louse. And so he didn't understand why, and, wine got him in a ton of debt. He loved his French wine, though. He was a huge enophile. But, we can succeed today through grafting technology. We buy our plants from nurseries, primarily in California, some in New York. It's great. We again, there's over 10,000 varieties of grapes on the planet. We want to grow what people are going to drink, because we're in the business of making wine and selling wine, so we have to be profitable. But B, we want to grow something that's going to be conducive to the soil conditions. So we always test our soil. We do subsurface mapping. The technology has evolved now, where we just purchased a 110-acre farm next door that's got this beautiful south-facing slope that won't require wind machines. It's got a nice air drain, and we're going to try Morcab Franc, and we're going to try Nebbiolo. Now, Nebbiolo on this flat part of the farm, which you can't see, pancake flat, might not do as well because it's a little bit early bud break and late ripening. Which those are a lot of red flags. When we hear that, we're like, please don't plant that. But the winemaker wants to try. So with the right site and the right soil, we can try some other varietals. But we do on the white side, Viognier, Chardonnay, Petit Manseng. On the red side, it's Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec, and now Nebbiolo will be the 8th French varietal that we plant. So
wow.
out of those 8 varietals, we could make, 15 or 20 wines. And I say 15 or 20, we've got a core portfolio, I guess. And then the winemaker will do what he calls his small batch series, which are kind of unique snapshots in time of, hey, I made this orange Viognier. I made Chardonnay with no sulfur. I made a Merlot with no sulfur. I co-fermented Petit Verdot and Petit Manseng, which, co-fermenting white and red grapes. Like, who does that? Yeah. Matthew Finot does that. One thing I will say about the Monticello AVA, because you asked, I need to answer your question. We were the 71st winery in the state of Virginia when we became a winery back in 2001. Now there's over 300, and there's virtual wineries and things. It's great. The Monticello AVA, when we got here, was about 15 wineries. Some have closed, some have opened. Now today, I think it's 42 wineries in the Monticello AVA, which is about a 20-mile radius around Charlottesville.
I love to
so
see
it really has become a wine destination, obviously on a much smaller scale than Napa and Sonoma and all of you guys out there. But it does bring in people from all over the world to drink wine and stay in the hotels and eat in the restaurants, which is great. Agritourism is what I think the industry we're a part of. We're the second biggest industry in the state of Virginia behind, logging. And
you have some amazing facilities.
So it's a huge economic boost to the economy. It employs a lot of people. But it's a great thing. We love being a part of it. Specifically, getting back to Matthew Finot and how he's helped the Monticello AVA. He started a program which he calls the Winemakers Research Exchange. You can look it up, WRE.
Ooh.
And it is a collection of winemakers in the Monticello AVA. And they get together and everyone brings a bottle of wine to share and try and take notes and say, hey, what yeast did you use? What was your fermentation like? What barrels did you use? All these things. And it's like a little renaissance to share all these ideas and information. And you think, oh, that's cool. And they'll do science and data, and they'll publish lab experiments online for, everyone can read them. But what has that done? Well, last year, 2021, in the Virginia Governor's Cup, which is our statewide competition, there's 30 gold medals given. And then there's the top 12 wines and then the best wine. 80% of the gold medals of last year's statewide competition were from the Monticello AVA, 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now.
Wow.
And I think that is a direct result, and he is very humble and he won't tell you, but I think it's a direct result of the collaborative environment that we have here in Virginia, particularly with the winemakers and the vineyard managers. It's so open and people help each other. This is not a cutthroat industry. This is not I have proprietary data and I'm not going to share with you. This is, hey, my tractor broke down and I need to get it done. And can you help me? It's like, I'll be there in 20 minutes, brother. I got you. Which I really appreciate coming from the Marine Corps. You help people out and you want to take care of each other. That camaraderie, it does exist in the Virginia wine industry. And I think it's a really, really great thing to see. So I think because of that, Winemakers Research Exchange and the collaborative effort, from winery owners all the way down to tasting room staff, it exists and you can call on each other to help each other out. It's really, really cool to see and play out. So I think that's going to help our industry grow. I do think, looking at the history of AVAs, I think initially it starts off as a larger geographic area and then might fragment into little, how can we be different from them type situations. I hope that's a very, very long way off because I like the collaboration that it brings, having us all working together. So, I'm going to send Bianca some wines, and I'd love to get your address after this and send you some wines just to kind of give you a small portfolio of what we have to offer so you can compare Virginia.
We do some tasting series. We'll have to set up a round 2 for this and go through.
That'd be fun. That'd be really fun. So,
I would like to. Unless Drew's not.
I had one question about your orange. So we're hearing a lot more. You got red wines, white wines, and then you have orange wines. A lot of people don't hear a lot about. Talk to me about that orange Viognier.
Yeah. So I remember we had a good year. I think it was the 2016 vintage, and my mom, who co-founded this place and owned it for a long time with my father, she would always do what we call backstopping in the vineyard during harvest, which our vineyard crew goes through and they're harvesting very, very quickly and getting, 99.9% of the fruit off the vine in that fruit zone and putting in lugs, and we're working behind them, putting that on a trailer and going back to the winery. But my mom would do backstopping, and she would go behind them to make sure there was nothing that they missed. And so, given the nature of operations that year, she didn't get out to do that that day. So she went back through and said, "Man, there's a lot of fruit still on the vine, Matthew." And it was secondary clusters up in the upper canopy, but it was a lot of fruit, maybe enough for like 2 barrels. And so she's like, "This fruit's good, but it's really ripe." We harvested Halloween Day, believe it or not, October 31st. So we harvested. My mom was like, "Let's go get that fruit." So we harvested fruit, brought it to the winemaker, and he put it in barrel, and he made it on the skins during the fermentation process like a red wine to give it that color, because in white winemaking you don't use the skins and seeds, but it gives it that tannin, and it's an old world technique that not many people do around here, and that's how it was born. It was my mom not wanting to see fruit go to waste in the vineyard, and the winemaker picking an idea from the old country saying, "Yeah, we can do that, no problem." And it wasn't a lot, but I've never told the winemaker this, and I hope he doesn't watch this podcast, but Jay Yeomans, who's a master of wine in Washington, D.C., he runs a school called the Capital Wine School in D.C., and he's a wonderful man. He helps organize and runs the Virginia Governor's Cup judging competition. So he's set up these very rigorous guidelines for the judging. Jay told our wine director at the time, a good friend of mine by the name of Matthew Brown, Jay said about Matthew's Orange Viognier, "This is the best wine that Matthew has ever made." And Matthew said, "We can't tell Matthew that. His head will explode." So I still haven't told him that. But he's a very talented winemaker, and he'll say, "Yeah, I can work with this. I'm going to make it fun and do this old world technique." And man, the press, the people, the wine writers that got hold of this, they're like, "This is really cool. They nerded out on it." I can send you the article they wrote on it. But that's how the orange wine was born. And sure enough, shortly after, people saw that press, and then you started seeing all these other people making orange wines. And imitation's the highest form of flattery. We say it all the time. We're like, "That's good. That's going to bring more people here, more people there." When our neighbor does well, we do well. And when we do well, our neighbors do well. So it's all good. But Matthew was the first, and at least in this area, and he's done a great job. And that's how the orange wine. I'll send you a bottle.
Oh, really I'd love
that's actually a really popular varietal in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah, Cape Town area. So I worked for a winery that the winemaker was from South Africa, and we made an orange wine every year because it was a popular
winemaking style.
Popular winemaking style in Cape Town region. Yeah.
I need to travel more. I've got young kids, so it's tough to leave the house. But
trust me, I understand.
One day.
I know, Bianca, you're dying to talk to him about Polo, but I want to talk to you about.
I'm not dying.
I'm dying to hear about Polo too, but I just have to commend you on your Crozet and the name. So, I read the name of the city, but it didn't until you said it. It didn't really draw the comparison that you've got the perfect name for a rosé.
Yeah. So there's a funny story. Before Matthew was our head winemaker, he was our assistant winemaker from 2003 to 2006. And our head winemaker at the time was a gentleman by the name of Michael Shaps, who still makes wonderful wine in the area. Michael was bleeding off a Merlot. He was concentrating the Merlot, and Mathieu, being a young Frenchman and coming from France, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And Michael says, "I'm bleeding off the Merlot," pouring it down the drain. And Matthew says, "I can make wine from that." And my dad's overhearing the conversation. He's like, "Hold the phone. Let's talk about this." So Matthew explains making rosé and where he comes from in the Rhone Valley, and in France in general, you can make this kind of Bandol style rosé from Merlot. And it's really good. So he said, "Let's try it." So we put it in a clear bottle, and my brother Carrington, our vineyard manager, who's been here since 2002 from the very first day, Carrington's got a piece of paper in front of him, and he's trying to find a name for the rosé. So he writes the name rosé on a piece of paper, and he's trying to tie it to the land. And so he's like Charlottesville, Albemarle, Monticello, Crozet, and he just drops the C down from Crozet, Crozet, which is the name of our town here, to Rosé, and it became Crozet. So we made it since 2006. It's 11.9% alcohol, super easy to drink, light, refreshing, and it's by far, I don't know whether it's the clear bottle and the pink or the catchy name, being named after Crozet, Virginia. Maybe a combination of the two, excuse me. But it has become by far our most popular wine, believe it or not. Hand over fist, it's a third of our production. We made
really?
about 18,000 cases this year, and it's 6,000 cases worth of Crozet.
That's what I'm excited to try.
And you're also doing it in cans.
Yes. So we were kind of the first ones in Central Virginia, maybe Virginia, to can wine, at least a rosé. And Mathieu was on a golf course with some buddies, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and he was sweating. It was hot. It was humid. And he said, damn, I would kill someone for a glass of rosé right now. But as you know, you can't have glass on a golf course. And so he's like, I'm going to can the rosé. And that's how the idea was born, to can it. And so we worked with canning company, went through a couple iterations. I'm actually looking at a picture of our canned rosé right now on my other monitor. But that's how it was born. It's like he was sweating, golfing, and said he was going to can it. And now there's a bunch of canned rosés around, which is great. But that's how it was born. And it's a very popular wine. It's super fun to drink. It's low alcohol, refreshing, porch wine, patio wine, picnic wine.
Sounds like the perfect wine to drink while watching a polo match.
Yes, we saw a lot of polo. Good segue. Bianca, did you have a specific question about polo, or do you want me to just kind of?
No, I mean, you can go. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
But I mean, you can kind of just start with, how it became polo to winery and what it's like today,
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned earlier, my dad's passion and hobby has been polo for a long time. Started playing in 1980 in college in San Antonio, and just got the bug and got hooked. So we moved to Virginia, and he was like, I need this land for a polo field. And so that was the original intent of buying the farm, as I mentioned. And so in 2003, we were able to level the ground a little bit, put a crown on this field, and plant some Bermuda grass, and started playing polo in 2004. And the winery was very young then. We'd opened in 2001. So my mom was pouring wine in a tasting room, which is adjacent to the polo field. And guests would come in to taste wine, which we were giving away for free at the time. We weren't even charging for tastings. And they would say, hey, what's happening out on the polo field? And it would just be my dad on the horse with a buddy, kind of sticking and balling, which is the equivalent of like pickup soccer game, and just kind of messing around. And, there's no one on the sidelines. And, this is a 12 acres. It's 300 yards long by 150 yards wide. It's a big field, and there's no one there watching. So my mom said, oh, that's my husband, David. He's just playing polo. Like, we've never seen a polo match before. Can we take some lawn chairs out and go watch, or can we bring our picnic blanket over there? My mom said, sure, go ahead, no problem. So it became this kind of, weird thing to watch. Like, what's going on over there? I'm gonna bring my wine over and watch this guy ride on a horse. And soon word kind of spread, like, oh, they're playing polo at King Family Vineyards. So we didn't have a team at the time, a full team. It's just my dad and a couple local yokels kind of coming out of the woodwork. And so thankfully, the University of Virginia down the road in Charlottesville has a co-ed club team, and they're a very well ranked, highly regarded team. So we reached out to them. Lou Lopez is the director of the program there. We said, hey, Lou, we'd love some help fielding some players so we can have some matches out here. Would you be interested? He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So sure enough, we have UVA co-ed club team coming to play with these older men and women. And so we get this kind of pickup league going, started generating some people coming out. And so it's grown from this kind of anomaly, my dad's hobby, to now today, we host polo matches from Memorial Day weekend on Sunday through usually the first Sunday in October. They start at noon. They're free and open to the public. We've always, my dad's vision was always, I want polo to be open and free to the public. I don't want to nickel and dime people. We want it to be like a community event to bring people together, just grab some grass, look at the mountains, eat a sandwich, bring their dog and kids, and watch polo and learn about polo. So it's grown from what it was today. Today, we can draw, on Memorial Day and Labor Day weekends, we're drawing, 2,000, 3,000 people from New York, Maryland, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina. I mean, it's the thing to do, apparently. I try to stay away from matches because I've got to work. But it's just this beautiful, fun community event where you don't have to buy wine. You can just come and enjoy the afternoon and, look at the beautiful mountains of Western Albemarle County and, meet a neighbor or, bring your kids and have a picnic and enjoy. And we do sell a lot of Crozet at those matches, and that's great. But Polo's kind of become a marketing tool. It's kind of a unique thing that we have here that no one else has, at least in the area for now. So it's just a fun community event that we enjoy hosting. My dad passed away in 2019, unfortunately, but my sister-in-law, Allie, plays polo now. She grew up kind of doing hunter, jumper, equestrian stuff.
Okay.
When my dad got sick, he said, "Who's playing polo? Who's playing polo?" Allie King. So Allie now plays. One of my nieces played for a while. Our assistant general manager, who's also dual hatting as our polo manager, his name's Connor Deal. Connor comes from equestrian polo background, and Connor has helped create and grow the Roseland Polo School. So we are now giving youth lessons, adult lessons to riders, wannabe polo players to grow the polo program here in Central Virginia to create a new generation of polo players. And it's been really successful. We have sponsors now. We're doing all sorts of things to grow this club. It's amazing. The newest thing that we actually just did a ribbon cutting for on Sunday this week is a outdoor polo arena. So it's kind of like box lacrosse for polo. It's a shorter field, and it's on kind of a rock dust sand mixture footing. So it's really great for the horses, and you can play when it's a little wet. So in the past, when our field has been too wet to play because of a rain, we had to cancel the match. And moving forward, we won't have to do that. We can play in the arena. It's got a beautiful grassy hillside. You can come put a blanket down on and drink Crozet and watch polo and have a picnic. So it's been a really cool thing. We're hoping to continue to grow it and grow just riding and getting out. I mean, people come here like, can my kids go pet the horses at the barn? We're like, absolutely. Like, please go pet the horses at the barn. It's just a cool place. I mean,
it's all part of that experience.
In downtown Charlottesville, and then you come out here and there's mountains and horses and dogs and a pizza truck, and it's just really fun. It's a very relaxed, fun environment.
And that's so important to provide that full experience that you have. I can't think of another winery, and I'm sure there is one that has a polo field attached to it.
I can't think of one. I mean, yeah. But I do have a question in regards to running a polo field and wanting a winery and serving alcohol at it. So do you have to have separate licensing for this? Do you have to, because I mean, even out here to be a winery and serve wine by the glass, that's a special license.
Yep.
So how do you convey and do all of that between the two?
Great question. I'm unfortunately well versed in all those legal matters. So when we approached the county and the state for a permit, we made sure that the entire farm was essentially a space where people could consume alcohol, not just the specific winery building itself. That was a big deal for us because we knew we wanted to do some type of outdoor sales. So that was one thing. So we could sell wine, in the woods over there if we wanted to. I don't know who would want to go walking through the woods and drink wine, but maybe someone would. So as far as permitting, we do have a special use permit from Albemarle County to host polo matches with some restrictions and guidelines. They said, we don't want you to do any night matches and have lights, for light pollution. We said, yeah, of course. I don't want to be up that late either. We don't want that. This is a unique place because it's not only where we work, we live here too. This is our home. So, a lot of wineries are open late. We shut down at 5:30. Like, I want to go to bed. I want to eat dinner with my family. I want to play with my kids and read books and stuff. So, to answer your question, there's a special use permit for polo. There's a special use permit for weddings and events. My dad helped draft legislation for that for Virginia state, believe it or not. It's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother podcast. But yeah, we wanted to make sure that we could do outdoor alcohol sales, and with the special use permit, we have the ability to host polo matches and have guests here. to watch them and serve alcohol. So we serve alcohol outside off of golf carts. We've got coolers in the back, and they kind of rove around, making sure, if anyone wants to refill or another bottle, we can do that locally, which is great. People seem to enjoy it, and it's easy.
That's awesome. So cool.
Yeah.
What's a day like once polo matches start at the winery versus the polo matches?
Yeah, there is no normal days. It's busy, but thankfully we have a wonderful team. There's a lot of prep work and kind of behind the scenes involved the week of, whether it's lining the field with chalk to make sure that the fans have an offset from the field to keep them safe. Some cones and some signage for parking. We have a parking crew that comes out to park cars. But once those gates drop, it's funny. We open at 10 a.m. We used to open at 9 a.m. But we open at 10 a.m. But on a Polo Sunday, we have people in our parking lot at 8:30 in the morning that will sit until 10 a.m. when we drop our chains to go park their car in their spot at the polo field so they can sit in their spot to watch polo. So it's become like this thing that's
religion, like a religion.
Yeah,
religion.
Yeah, people want to come and get their spot and camp out, and they might not drink a bottle. I don't know. I hope they drink a couple, but they enjoy it. It's kind of a Sunday ritual. Some people come after church if they go to church or temple or mosque or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's become this kind of Sunday event where people are literally lining up at the gate to come through right when we drop the gates, and parking crew will park cars and make sure everyone's safe. We have an ambulance on site. We've got an evacuation plan and all those things. Mm-hmm. God forbid we ever have to use them. But we have polo teams traveling from Texas and New York and Florida and Northern Virginia to come play here now. It's become a cool place to play. Believe it or not, there's like this corridor from Florida. Wellington, Florida is like the mecca for polo in the United States. And so Florida folks and New York folks travel back and forth, and Virginia's kind of a central stopping ground for a lot of them. So some people want to come here and stop and play for a weekend and then keep going, or they want to board their horses here. So it's kind of a central place for a lot of different clubs and polo teams to stop and play at, get some experience, or do that sort of thing. So polo days are very busy days. But we have a great team, that gets here early and stays late. And believe it or not, there's not a trash can in sight. People pack out their trash, and we have tried to develop this culture of we want to take care of the land takes care of us, and please help us with that mission. And people do. You look out and you see these rows of 10 by 10 tents, and these elaborate charcuterie boards and big hats and heels and dresses and bow ties. And people dress up. It's this big event, and some people come in sandals and a t-shirt, and that's okay too. There's no dress code, but there's a lot of stuff that they will bring out, and then at 4:30 when we close the field and have to get ready for a 5:30 wedding, it's all gone. And people help us with that mission, and it's great. And they help us maintain this beautiful, beautiful field that we get to share. So it's really cool. It's a lot of moving parts, but I don't want to say we have it down to a science, but it's a well-oiled machine, and everyone kind of understands their role and as the cog in the big wheel, and we all just chip together and pull on the same oar and just make it work.
You think that you sound like you run it like a military operation?
It's funny. My first year I got here, transitioning out of the Marine Corps, I guess it was about a year and a half after, but I had a tasting room staff of about 15 people, and we're talking about polo operations, and I pull out a whiteboard and start drawing diagrams, and like, we're going to have walkie-talkies. We got to communicate, calm as king, guys. And we're going to have golf carts, and their eyes are getting this big. Like, it's going to be great. Just wait and see. And it was awesome. It was a big step up from where it had been. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things I really enjoy doing is process improvement and, team building and making things better, looking at something from perspective, whether it's polo operations or tasting operations. Is there a piece of technology? Is there a piece of software? Mm-hmm. Is there some training? Is there anything we can do to improve the customer experience, guest experience, morale, whatever it is? Like, how can we get better every day? So we've never stopped learning. My dad always said it. You can't rest on your laurels here in Virginia, whether it's outside in the vineyard or in the winery or in the tasting room. You just got to keep moving forward, keep marching, keep getting better every day, keep learning, keep asking questions. So just trying, that's the culture we built. You know, we all work hard. We all pick up the cigarette butts on the way in from our car. You know, no detail is too small to look at. And I hope to continue that culture. And it's tough to do, you know, as you grow, and, you know, we've hired a general manager for the first time ever this year. So we don't have to be so in the weeds, so we can enjoy our kids and make some memories with them a little bit. And it's hard to let go, and it's hard to trust, but we're learning to do that. And that's something that's necessary for any operation that's growing, particularly to learn to do that. So that's kind of where we are now, with the three brothers running things, and, you know, mom kind of advising, and this big growing team of polo and events and wine and vineyard and all these things. So it's been great. We're loving and enjoying it a lot.
Where do you see it in 5 years?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I love like strategic planning, and hey, what are we doing not tomorrow, but what are we doing in 5 years? What are we doing in 2 years? So this recent purchase of this 110-acre farm next door, we were actually concerned. You know, in 2016, I was scrolling through the social media feed, which, you know, I tried to manage then, and thankfully passed that off now. But I was noticing this beautiful backdrop in almost every picture that we were being tagged in. And it's a neighboring farm. And I thought to myself, man, if that ever gets bought by someone or developed into a subdivision, we're in real trouble. So in 2016, I wrote this email to my family. I said, hey guys, this is what I just thought, and here's the idea. We need to buy that property. So my parents thought, like, yeah, it's a big swing, man. It's gonna take a lot. Why don't we have mom write the landowner a letter? So sure enough, my mom gets out quill and pen and scratches a nice letter. And we had a relationship with her. Her son had his rehearsal dinner here, so there's a little bit of relationship. And we didn't hear a response, like crickets. And we sent it certified. We knew she got the letter, but we didn't hear a response. 2 years go down the road. It's 2019, pre-COVID. We sent another letter, and we finally got a response. And she said, hey, I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your husband, David. My late David and I were planning on building our dream home on that farm, and he had a massive heart attack and died. And she was like, the land is very nostalgic to me. It means a lot to me. And she said, I'd love to see it continue to be a working farm. And I think I'm going to sell in a couple of years, but I'll let you know. And sure enough, when COVID hit and the housing market went crazy, we thought for sure there was going to be someone from California or New York or DC with a briefcase full of cash that was going to, swipe it away. So we ended up, on a Thursday, we heard from her saying she was going to list it on the open market, and we were very concerned. And we somehow tracked down the listing agent, who said, I'm listing it Saturday this week, but I'll meet you tomorrow, Friday at 1 o'clock. And we went up there to meet him, and we got out of the vehicle, and we saw this guy, and my mom kind of looked at him and said, have we met before? And he said, Ellen, you might not remember me, but your late husband, David, and you and I had lunch together 20 years ago in the downtown mall in Charlottesville. And your husband was so nice to me, and he invited me, get this, he invited me to have a lesson to play polo 20 years ago, and it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. And we had this great 20-minute conversation reminiscing. And at the end of it, he said, I know you guys want this farm. Thank you for this contract. A bird in hand is better than two in the bush. I'm going to ask the owner if she will sell it to you by 5:30 tonight. And 2 hours later, we had a signed contract for the land, and we closed the deal. It never went on the open market. So Roseland Polo actually helped us secure a piece of property to answer your question. What are we doing in 5 years?
I love it.
It's this beautiful south-facing slope. It's perfect for grapes. We're going to put 5 acres on it next spring, 4 Cab Franc, 1 of Nebbiolo, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to put some horse pasture over there. We need some more grass for horses because the polo school is growing, which is great. It's got awesome grass. And it does have this beautiful, breathtaking view of the southern mountains of Albemarle. It's 940 feet at its highest, so it's about 100 feet higher than this farm. So when you go up there, and if you're ever in this area, I'm going to drive you over to that farm, and you'll look out and see the beauty of western Albemarle. It's gorgeous up there. And, there was a time when I was like, we need an event venue up here. We need to sell wine up here. We need to have a restaurant. We need to have Airbnb. We need to do all these things. Mm-hmm. And we could, but we might just keep it grass. Mm-hmm. One thing we do know is we prevented a 55 home subdivision from being there, and that's good enough for us. We're going to put in conservation easement, keep it green grass forever, and we're going to grow grapes there and probably graze some horses there, and that might be it. But the future is unwritten. 3 or 4 years, 5 years down the road, we might say, hey, let's build another event venue. Let's do more weddings. Let's do more corporate events. Let's sell more wine. We don't know. But we do know we want to keep this place as beautiful and nice as we've made it, and we want to continue to do that. So in 5 years, if you call me, I might be Zooming in another facility up there, which would be cool, but I might not be. I might be here in the same desk, and that'll be okay too. So
I love it as possibilities. You can just think about it.
Yeah, just
that's the first thing. You get in there, live with it, see it, stand on that ridge for a few years, and it'll speak to you.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to let it marinate for a while, and we'll see. So we're excited, really optimistic about the future.
I'm excited to hear your story evolve. This is fantastic. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, man, thank you. KingFamilyVineyards.com. We do ship to California, and I think it's just got 3 more states, so 22 other states, I believe, we can ship to. And we'd love to have y'all, spread the word. We have a supply problem here, so don't buy too much wine. But yeah, we're looking to grow online sales and continue to get more states in our portfolio. But KingFamilyVineyards.com is the best place to find us. If you're ever in Charlottesville or Central Virginia, please go to the 40 wineries if you can do that. There's really great wineries out there to visit, so please go see our friends and neighbors. There's breweries, there's distilleries, there's great restaurants in Charlottesville. Albemarle County is awesome. There's hiking, biking, swimming. It's so fun. It's one of the best places to live and retire as well. So hit up our website, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. But we'd love to stay connected. I want to see you guys some wine, and you can share with friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to have a tasting series.
Yeah, man, that'd be fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.